Hi, welcome back to Have a Go Heroes. This video is part 2 of the 2-part discussion video that we've been doing. Let us know whether you liked it in the comments below. Maybe we'll do more, maybe we won't. Depends on the reaction, I think. So I hope you enjoy it. Like I say, it's basically just continues from where the last video picked up. So without further ado, I'm going to let you rejoin us as we come back from a break.
And there's half our audience gone, so now we have 3 viewers.
Yeah,
forget the Fortnite kids.
There's that much.
Right, we've had a break, let's do an intro.
We're going to jump straight back in. There's some things I'd like to cover.
Okay.
I forgot them.
Is one of them your face?
Well, one of them is that we need so we need to just talk about, we never went back to why Luke made his character.
We didn't.
Oh yeah.
And there was some other stuff that I forgot the moment I said, there's some stuff I need to talk about. So
The camera handles them.
no, I feel like that's a whole other video.
Yeah,
We'll be here for hours.
Just in case you're wondering why we don't look like we're in the same shot as we were a moment ago, that's because the camera's held up by blue tack and it's hot and it's moved.
And I'm also on the floor.
Hero, I'm going to keep saying that. And we like we're G.I. Joe.
I fell off the chair.
Yeah.
He's fallen in, he can't get up. We need to finish this. So.
Right, anyway, why did you make your character, Luke?
Well, we were in a game. Sorry. So, I know Ben's joked, and I don't know if we got this on film after our last session, but about I'm the only one that picked a pirate for a pirate campaign, but I can't make it sound like I did that in a smart way because it was purely coincidence, and I made the pirate before I knew what the campaign was.
Actually,
We left the family.
Oh shit, yeah.
It's alright.
So what I said...
so, like, actually, that's a good point, like, because Ben was like, I've made a campaign, which has, he's just disappeared under, there we go. Ben was like, it's actually your fault that none of us have, because you said, I want to do this, I want to record a D&D game, why don't you all come up with characters and tell me about them? We made our characters, and then you're like, it's a pirate-themed one.
That's what I remember.
That is exactly what happened.
Exactly.
You've been blaming the party.
If you go back to the start of this video, you'll hear that I said exactly that.
So anyway, yeah, so my character being a pirate was not coincidental to the campaign. The main thing that drives me making a character is the story and their characters and their motivations and things like that, coming from like a theatre background. Ooh. In a similar way to how like Becky puts her writing and turns that into a character, I've turned kind of what I know about character development and then gone, okay, how can I make the classes fit that? So the class for me pretty much comes in last.
Yeah, did so.
Yeah, so it'll be, okay, I want this character, I want him, you know, this has happened to him, this is how he acts now because of what's happened to him, and have this whole elaborate, I think it was like a page and a half, this one, so it was quite tame. I have come up with more since then.
Yeah.
Small font, but this elaborate story about who that character is as a person, influenced by things like pop culture. I think at the time I'd just finished rewatching Black Sails, which is an awesome series.
I love that.
And so I think that's why I was tailored it more towards pirates at the time.
Yeah, absolutely, because one of the things that influenced this was, I think we briefly discussed the character, and also, like, I just finished reading Red Sails Under a Red Sky, which is that a Mark Lamora book?
Yeah.
So I was like, pirates are cool, and I want to do pirates.
Yeah,
that's kind of where that
I was
came
saying,
from.
I've come up with this pirate background for whatever reason that you'll find out.
What characters from Black Sails
I have my favourites in Black Sails, but in terms of what character influences mine, it's not from Black Sails, it's more Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Edward Kenway. So
like a bit of a maverick.
Bit of a maverick, but I kind of tried to give it more of an actual background.
No,
We've just been invaded by a kid.
Death Kitty!
Oh, no, it's gone.
She's going.
Okay, everyone ignore the kids.
Oh no, she's not.
Anarchy is about to come.
I need to do this thing.
Okay, I'm gonna go move a cat.
We're gonna rescue the cat.
They never come upstairs. They won't come upstairs.
Go on, Trinket.
You look so terrified.
Say goodbye. Goodbye.
I think maybe we should. Yeah, I'm allergic to cats.
rather than just being a bastard.
Would you?
With some editing around that.
Cats.
Yeah, just like get it away from me.
My second name is Deville.
Yeah.
Cats Deville. Cruella.
Anyway,
So yeah, Black Sails influenced me wanting to be a pirate, and then when I was coming up with it, it was kind of like the Edward Kenway kind of inspiration for the actual person. And then I was like, okay, what class could be a pirate? And I think we talked about it. Xanathars had come out with a swashbuckler.
yeah.
A drunkard and
Yeah.
as well. So many characters are just influenced by Xanathars is out. It was such a monument.
Well, no, that was it. I decided no with Xanathar because swashbuckler to me, it didn't fit my epitaph of how that pirate would act and fight and things. It was all sneaky. Like, it was a rogue.
It's a Jack Sparrow character.
Yeah, whereas for me it was like I chose fighter because I looked at Battlemaster and I was like, oh, you can do the things like the repose and the fainting attack and the goading attacks.
I know Monk's not really kind of fitting of the class of the style of
Drunken Master.
Yeah.
No, again, that to me is a completely different genre. That is like your
Jackie Chan's Drunken Master kind of.
literally a Drunken Master.
It's the original Drunken Master.
Yeah.
I think Second Ed was inspired by that.
Yeah, to me, fighter Battlemaster at least fit perfectly because you had all these fighting styles that you see in classic pirate duels where they'll like disarm you or taunt you or like trip you up, like fighting dirty. But because you've learned that as a tactic, not just because you fight dirty.
So does that mean that you're going the supremacy?
Yeah, I'll go with the supremacy dice and I've gone the Battlemaster route.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I've taken for my first 3 tactics. I guess that'll be a surprise in there for me as well.
Yeah.
It is based around fighting dirty, but as a practice technique.
See, right, so two things, like, one, as a talking point, like, you do things the exact opposite the way that I do. But secondly, just to cast some shades at Wizard, it's almost like Xanathars.
Why are we casting shade at Wizard?
Well,
because they cast things at
because I'm allowed an opinion.
Okay.
It's almost like they released Xanathars, which had a lot of content for players, and everyone was starved for it because all they've done is release adventures.
I am not going to get into this with you because
yes, I know.
Every session of the game has used something from an AP.
That's fine.
And it will continue to. So
no, it's just my opinion.
DMMJ loves it. Player MJ.
No, DMMJ doesn't know.
Whoa.
Anyway, talking
Grumpy Dwarf.
Yeah. Pretty much.
This is a discussion me and you need to have in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Maybe not now, but there's hours.
No, but like, so I do things like the opposite to you. Like, I tend to find, if I do things your way, I often get to a point where I'm like, oh shit, there isn't a class that fits my idea for my character.
Yeah.
So I tend to choose the class first.
Yeah.
And then build it around. I go, what class would I like to play this time, and build it around there. But the thing that I love about role playing is both are valid.
Yeah, and that's it. I kind of with character concepts rather than actually playing them. I've tried doing that before.
Yeah.
Like I had a character in mind. Well, no, I saw the UA class Mystic, which again could be a whole session on that stuff. It's like 20-something pages.
Yeah,
But I saw the Mystic class and then tried to make a character around the class. And then as I was writing the character, again, I wasn't writing how the character works as a class. I was writing a character as their backstory. And then I looked at it and went, oh no, they're not a mystic. They're a monk. And then changed it, and so they're a monk. You know, so I've tried doing it the other way around, but then to me it has to, the class, the profession, it's almost like a profession to me, and it has to fit their life.
Yeah, so yours is a case of I want to make their life, then what would they have become?
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of go, what are they now and how did they get there?
Yeah, which, like you say, are both valid.
Yeah.
One of the things that has happened with this, because like 5th edition Senior Rising multi-class characters, part of that is ease of multi-class rules. You're not having to count different XP traits, but like also I think maybe it's that thing of like this character class doesn't quite do what I want it to do, because there's in 3rd there's a kind of modularity where you could like build different skill sets and like buy like like prestige classes, not buy, but like train yourself into prestige classes. Whereas here you have to kind of make that up, and maybe multi-classing allows you to do that. For example, like if you take Assassin's Creed, if I was going to play that character, I'd kind of maybe go Shadow Monk and then Paladin, or I might go like Rogue cleric. You know, like there are lots of different ways to build it, but there's, but like they require a multi-class.
Yeah. See, the issue I've got with multi-classing is I feel in this edition, especially because it goes from level 1 to 20. Whereas a lot of the other, in 3.5 you went 1 to 10, and then you had a prestige class.
Well, no, not always.
Well, a lot of the classes there.
I played a 20th level bard. He was just a bard.
Yeah, but 3.5, at least in my opinion. You
had to build yourself towards one.
You had to build yourself towards one, but like it was kind of like 1 to 10, and then it was like your character's kind of done. Choose a prestige class. That's where all the cool stuff lies. Where I kind of feel in 5th ed, all of your really cool stuff is 10th and onwards.
I mean, I think
so. If you do half and half, if you do half and half, you miss out on some of the really cool class abilities.
Yeah.
That's the trade-off, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, sorry. With 5th ed, you're talking about you're talking about prestige classes previously, but that's kind of like in 5th ed where you choose your paths. With your classes like with barbarian, you choose your paths. That's kind of like going on to a prestige class because you get your additional stuff.
And you get it earlier.
And you get it earlier, and then you having to wait to get to level 10.
It's weird with multi-classing in this edition. If you go 10 and 10, you miss out on the good stuff from both classes. But because, in my opinion, from what I've seen, in 5th edition, a lot of the capstone, like the last level abilities in your class, a lot of the time are really poor. Like, I think one of the monk abilities, one of their level 17 ability is like Rogue's Evasion or something similar to that.
The touch of palm one's really good.
That one's amazing.
Yeah, kill bill attack.
Yeah, the 5-finger heart exploding.
One thing you've got to consider, because we're only saying this.
Damage.
We're only saying this from like a gaming perspective, though.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have to, because Grave Domain Cleric is definitely not as good.
Not
don't take my bias on this, but it's not as good as like the Forge Domain, because that is badass. But at the same time, we're only speaking about this from a gaming perspective, like in terms of like numerical stats. Really,
if you play it like I like
another reality thing is how many times you get to 20th level.
Exactly.
Actually, I to kind of go along with your point, like again, because it's a touchstone that everyone will know here. Like again, spoilers for Critical Role. Like,
sponsor us.
I've never actually seen it.
Neither have I.
One of the Vex multi-classes into a rogue.
I can still hear you using my hands on my ear.
That's because I've got a very
so
deep
can
voice.
the people down the street.
That's true. But like Vex multi-classes into a rogue because narratively she's seen how cool her brother is and
guided it in that way.
And then she's gone, well, I'm going to learn how to be stealthy like him and do the things that he does. And like I get it from a narrative perspective, but talking from a pure stat position, I don't see
again,
the
you can do it both ways with that. You can either multi-class because narratively it would make sense. Like for example, in my early conception of Edward, I was going to have him as a fighter multi-class with a bard, and he would like sing sea shanties and they would be his bard-like songs. And that again was from a narrative perspective. Or you could do it as, right, I want to multi-class into, like a player that, again, speaking of multi-classing into bard, someone from a campaign that myself and Ben are in, was a rogue, and Alex was a rogue that wanted to multi-class as a bard because he liked some of the abilities, and then a narrative was like, did you and him work together to make a narrative around that? So again, you can go from one way or the other in...
Yeah. Well, we worked towards it, then there's still some seaweed in his mouth.
Magic seaweed.
Yeah. If we're speaking to like people watching as well, if you're thinking about building a character, although it's cool to reach pretty numbers and like blow someone's face off in one hit, don't base your character around that. Because narratively it might not fit, and you might enjoy it more if you, as you play your character more, you might enjoy playing that character in that way.
I suppose we're kind of talking more from the perspective of like, we've played lots of D&D and we've got to those high levels, and we're talking about we know the process of how to get there. I mean, at least the majority of us, because you've literally just started playing. But like what Alex has said, make your character, and if you've got a super cool idea, like you with your Grave Domain, and make a cool brave domain.
I'm also not against the idea of like, you know,
hitting
someone wanting to be nails. Like, there's
again, it's a
or like a great example is Tom, who probably will be watching this, maybe.
Yeah, he is
a character who wants to
be nails.
He wants to be nails, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But he is the inspiration for Lucha Mages. Yeah. And he really
understands what he's doing.
No, he really wanted to be big and tough, but he also wanted to be able to summon a dragon. That's why he wanted to be a wizard. He was like, I want an undead dragon that I want to ride. And at first level, he
couldn't.
He couldn't climb a tree.
No, he couldn't climb a tree because he's a wizard. He has like a luchador physical special ability that was made up, which is like basically a wrestling move he can do once a short or long rest or something like that.
We made we made a background, and it's a background any of you guys can choose if your characters die, which is trained as a lucha mage. And it gives you like a. Technically, you shouldn't do it because like you're not really supposed to, in backgrounds they're supposed to be like role-playing hooks rather than like actually.
But this does not help.
It doesn't really help. It's like a 1d6. It's like basically a first level monk punch. Which is helpful. I mean, they're going to be way totally.
But he has kind of learned through playing that maybe I can't ride a dragon at level 1. But the great thing is, that doesn't mean his character will stop trying whenever
he can't ride a dragon at level 14 might be more reasonable.
Could be a case that once I've reached the levels I need to get the maximum for the Storm Herald path, that my character decides he wants to, instead of being a barbarian, he wants to become a shaman of sorts by becoming one with the elements.
I can see he has this plan.
I think I was thinking about it, but I was like, I could multi-class, and then I could multi-class into sort of a spellcasting class, which has then got.
I think what you're saying as well. The beauty about D&D is like it's just a set of guidelines, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't have to stick to the book entirely.
Basically, find a group that your play style works with, even if they don't have the same.
Yeah, because there are those groups that are like full on just dungeon raiding, stick to the rules, and like I really like as a player. Not as a DM, I really like getting into that tacticals and miniatures-based combat and things like that. So
I'm a wargamer as well, so I
enjoy that. I just don't have the stuff to do it.
And I think going back to like Tom, who again I really hope is watching, just because there's something that seems unlikely as a character, if you have an idea of something you want to do, just because per your level maybe you can't do that. Maybe again going back to you start at level as a hero.
Thinking about numbers as well.
Doesn't mean your character doesn't still go for it, because that can create some amazing
unless you're jumping over a table, then just forget it.
Tables are lethal.
Tables are surprisingly deadly.
They almost killed 2 of our party members.
So like in the similar vein to sort of like that, but it was a realization after I'd made the character. It was one of your old D&D games. I started out playing a bard, and then I kind of was reading some of the other splat books for 3.5 and read the Dragonlance book, and found out about the Dragon Rider, which was the prestige class.
That was harder in 3.5 because we had to rebuild your character so that he met the requirements.
That's what we were going to do. Is like I kind of went to Ben and I went, look, if we keep because one of the prerequisites was having a base attack bonus of +10, and like a bard doesn't get that until level 15.
Not in third.
Doesn't get that until level 15, whereas a fighter, because they got +1 every level, got it at level 10. And I had a frank conversation, and this is a thing. Like, if you want to do something, talk to your DM about it. I had a frank conversation with you, and I went, look, not being funny, I want to play as a Dragon Rider, but if I keep going on the Bard, A, I'm not going to get to do it until level 15. Which means I'll only B. It means I'll only get 5 levels worth of Dragon Rider.
The campaign wasn't even going to level 20. So
and it was like, what can I do to? And you went, there's a thing called a rebalance quest, where your hero goes on an adventure so like impactful to them that they physically change.
Okay, so bring that into kind of a question, I guess, for kind of us as well, but as you guys and whoever DM'd. When someone comes up to you and says, because I know it's happened to you, for example, in a game, I don't like the way my character's going, and I know, Becky, you've had some kind of my origins, do I want to switch it up kind of thing or not. If someone comes up to you and says, I don't kind of like the one I picked, because I picked it when I didn't know, or I picked it and thought I'd like it and I didn't, what way would you rather change it up and kind of have to mess with the story, or would you rather say, okay, let's talk about maybe why your character leaves, and then we'll bring another character in? Which way do you think is best?
I've had players who have come up to me and just said, I don't want to play my character anymore, can they leave? Like, flat out. Like, can they just go away? I've got an idea.
In Star Wars.
Yeah, and just like, I've got a different character I want to play. And like, sometimes as a DM, you can be a little bit like, oh shit, like your character is part of this party, and you're
integral part
but
the next 4 sessions are
even if like they're not integral to the current story, it's like you've got history, and sometimes bringing a new character, even not a new player but just a new character into the story, can feel really clunky. Like there's that
again, like, look at the first few bits in Critical Role where a certain player changed character.
Well, there's also a thing where like introducing new players is the same. That's why there's so many videos about how to do it.
But from a pure suspension of disbelief thing, like you're all sitting there and everyone knows that this character has to go with you. Yeah. Like if you're laughing because of our D&D game, but like if like it's contrived as it is, this random person you've met in the wilderness or in a tavern or in a dungeon, like they're captured by the monsters, that person has to go with you because it's a player character and it's what this person now wants to play. But to answer your question rather than just waffle on, like it would super depend, because like at the end of the day, playing a role-playing game is about everyone's fun, and if people aren't having fun, then if someone isn't having fun, then
what can you do to fix it?
You need to fix that. And like sometimes, like this is why sometimes your plot has to be amorphous. I'm fairly certain you can agree to this. Is like as a DM, I tend to just go, this is the beginning, this is the current quest you're on, these things will happen, they aren't fixed.
Well, I've planned 7 dungeons for you guys for the Pirates game, and you just like work whether you go to them at the time.
The things aren't, yours are obviously geographically locked, but we've chosen to go to places.
Yeah, you can do it in any order, or
but like
skip some, or not.
Then again, like you said, your map isn't finished.
Yeah. I know it's getting off like slightly off topic, but like if an NPC has some crucial information and your players don't engage with that NPC for whatever reason, maybe they just don't like them, maybe they didn't like click with them, then which NPC do they like? Is there a reasonable explanation? Is there a reasonable explanation that they would know that information, or do they know someone? Like, can they reintroduce them to that NPC, or can they introduce them to a new NPC that's got that knowledge?
Or in the case that you've done it, can that NPC introduce the new player character for a reason?
If you were going to introduce a new character, so let's say Sonny doesn't like playing a barbarian, and he says, I want to play a monk, completely fresh off the bat kind of thing. What level would you introduce it in relation?
I always do standard. That's open to interpretation. I'd always do like the level you're at, but I'd introduce a caveat, because there are certain players, and I know of one I can think of straight off the bat, who like they do that every 3 levels, like, and I'm like, the first one you get for free.
Yeah.
After that, depending on how I'm feeling, maybe it's your character died or whatever, but like maybe then you start reducing levels, because we don't want someone who just like gets this idea that something new is cool.
And I think that maybe with that as well, it depends on the experience of the player. Because if you're level 3 and you decide you want to change, and you're a relatively new player like Becky or myself, that's fine, because you can easily pick up the class.
I suppose if it's a later leveled character.
If you're level 15 and you've only ever played a rogue, and then all of a sudden you want to play a sorcerer, that's going to be really difficult for you to get the grasp of playing a level 15 sorcerer.
There's also a thing like even when like the thing with D&D is the power jumps.
The tiers
are quite substantial, and even
so 4 to 5.
And especially at higher levels, like that 1 level difference
has a massive benefit.
That can mean that your encounter, which is tailored to your group's tactical ability and their level, never trust challenge rating. it lies. But like,
I just threw 30 goals at them.
yeah, but like, no,
What? You just went.
Oh, actually, it's easier than we thought it was.
yeah, but like, no, like if you throw an encounter at a group that's predominantly level 15, and you've gone right. You're going to play a sorcerer, but we're going to start you at a lower level, whatever that level is, and maybe you'll get to level up in between their level ups.
Yeah.
Or if they're several steps down, you'll level up several times.
Yeah.
So that by the time they go from 15 to 16, you're also going from 15 to 16, but you get to learn your class. The problem is, those encounters for that level 15 group are deadly for that character. And like, we've spoken a lot about this, about asymmetrical parties. Like, we've spoken about how would you do the Avengers film in Mutants and Masterminds, for instance.
Yeah.
Because there's no way.
There is a way, but you have to be a really not railroady, but a manipulative DM.
Well, yeah. Well, no,
where you go like, okay, there are 5 different challenges, and if you choose to send Hawkeye to deal with Loki, he's gonna die.
Well, no, I was gonna say.
But then you've made a bad tactical decision because you have the Hulk.
Yeah.
Hawkeye.
Well, no,
for a whole other reason.
I'm gonna say that. What I was gonna say is like, there's no way that Thor is the same level as Hawkeye and Black Widow. And like in a film,
In power levels, you mean like?
well,
sort of, yeah.
I was more just going
character
for
levels.
rather than Eminem vernacular. I was just going in general. Like, Thor has more experience points than Hawkeye and Black Widow. Like, it's just a fact. But in a film, you can do like what you were saying. Like in a film, they aren't all doing the same encounters.
Yeah.
Cap, Black Widow, and Hawkeye
Are dealing with the ground.
are dealing with the ground troops. Iron Man's doing his thing. Thor and Hulk are doing their thing.
That first Avengers film is a real.
Yeah.
Watch it and go. This is a superhero role-playing game. The DM knows that the characters are from different levels. It's a real study in how to do that, even though it's not a role-playing.
But again, that shows you how that mirrors real life as well.
I'm going to say the problem with that though is that it would be very difficult because you have to have several different battle mats all going on at once.
Or just come to battle mat.
Yeah,
really,
but like, if you ever got into a situation where Hawkeye was fighting, I don't know, the big wormy things, if Hawkeye was up against one of them, Hawkeye's going to die.
Yeah.
And like that's a problem that you can have. Like, if you
that's where you have to railroad it heavily to get them to that point.
Yeah, and it's like if you've got an unbalanced party, you're either going to have a combat that's way too easy because you've got one powerhouse and they just spank everything.
The issue with power balance in D&D especially is that power balance isn't important. It's not. This is heresy. Power balance isn't important in the case of really when we look at classes, are they balanced towards it? Because the DM will deal with that or adjust up and down or add a few hit points or whatever. But they're important when one player feels like they're doing everything, or one other player feels like actually that character is treading on my toes, and it's not necessarily about. It's not even really about power levels. Sometimes it's about what's a term that was really popular a couple of years back, which is niche protection, where the rogue should be the person doing the roguey things, and the arcanist is the person who should be doing the arcane things. So that they feel like their wheelhouse is not covered, and it's going to be interesting when you two level up that, giving you enough to kind of all do this.
I mean, the thing.
Sort of on that point as well, when we were doing M&M in the Iron Age, I did have a character idea that I presented to you, but a different person was doing a character that also dealt with souls, because my character was going to be a samurai who sort of absorbed souls of their enemies. So sort of linked to Onimusha, sort of homage to that, if you'd ever played or not. But it was a great game as well, great series, one of my favourites on PlayStation 2.
I feel like he's still covering it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I changed my character idea to what I played with the fantasy character that I played sort of in that period. So it was because I didn't want to tread on that player's toes.
I mean, me and you basically, we need a fireside, 2 leather chairs and smoking jackets type show where we discuss these things, because I actually massively disagree with your point in that I don't it just
you're allowed to
but that's what I mean.
Do you hear that, internet? You're allowed to disagree.
I don't think your point's invalid, but at the same time, I've always been of the opinion that you could have played that character you wouldn't have stood on anyone's toes.
As long as the DM's doing his job.
But what I mean, you can have 2 rogues in a pie.
Yeah.
You can have 2 rogues in a pie.
I don't. I think the thing when I said it is,
you know what?
I didn't mean that you can't do it.
Let's
I'll
just.
sharing cigars it.
Let's just agree to disagree because it's like 8:30, 8:45.
No, let me just say, I didn't necessarily say it in protection. I think that was the issue you were discussing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily.
Yeah.
I think that's where the concern can happen. Whereas actually, just having characters of different power levels is less important.
Yeah.
Given the time, and we just talked about railroading, so I'm going to railroad the conversation slightly. I just want to get in before we finish. Where you think the campaign's going, what you'd like out of it. Like, we haven't really discussed what you guys want out of the game. And like, I'm at a point where I can add stuff in or take stuff out or whatever. So like, maybe just an idea of where you think you might want to explore, what's come up so far that's interesting, that sort of thing.
And again,
I might not even put this on.
Yeah.
But like,
Before it's going to get a little bit cheesy and YouTubey, but in terms of you guys, if we have an audience by this point, what do you kind of want to see happen?
I'm not going to listen because
no, we're not going to
sections
listen.
are hell.
Yeah, we're not going to listen, but it'd be interesting to see opinions, even if we ignore you.
For me, then, like, it's a little bit like what I said. Like, I want to explore this idea of someone who isn't. We've kind of done it before, you and I. We in your vampire game, in that guy who isn't, but becomes. So my Sabak character, he wasn't a good vampire, and he was a coward. But he's becoming an alright vampire, and he's no longer a coward.
Yeah, I just realised he's a complete contrast to Reynolds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a whole other. Yeah.
It's a different thing, but like
I don't get that reference.
Just
anyone.
No, just for your brain, like. But like that's for me, like.
I'm at your opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, but like that's what.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to sort of like that. I suppose like at first I thought I didn't really have a very like. I thought I had a very bland backstory, and that's kind of what I wanted. I didn't want him to have manifest destiny material, but as you said, it's probably the most cliched of all. But I suppose I want to just go over this thing of like, what happens to what does Ezekiel do when the world needs saving?
Okay,
becomes Batman.
I
almost was going to.
Yeah. Go on.
Damn it, Alex. Go first, it's fine.
No.
No, he was going to say he was always going to be Batman.
joke.
That was all.
He was going to make a Batman joke.
Okay, well, whatever then. That's fine.
In case you haven't noticed from our shows, Becky is easily confused.
That was cocked.
And frequently bullied.
You know what?
Yeah.
You guys are worse than the table, all of you.
Yeah, yes we are. Sorry, Becky,
So you're
please,
going to
go on.
say
Oddly, that table was cocked.
you were similar.
So I'm similar to you in that I wanted a character whose destiny is almost in the past. So she thought she found a destiny and then it hasn't worked out. And so I'm kind of interested to see, like at the moment she's very focused on finding something and trying to maybe get her destiny back on track. But I'm quite curious to know if that doesn't happen, where does she then go from there?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's just there's like little hairs on the back of my neck. It's like it's very much it's like what happens after the Campbell journey, like after Happy Ever After.
Yeah, kind of similar to like what I was saying earlier about okay, this is the direct. Wait, that's not okay. Like where it gets everything you know is not what you know. Yeah.
So what happens when you think you found your path and suddenly everything just goes wrong? It was slightly inspired a bit actually by the appendix to the Lord of the Rings, where you kind of get all this stuff that happens after the narrative.
Where Glorfindel is badass.
Glorfindel killed a Balrog.
Or
he is nailed.
the big life-saving,
Yeah.
world-altering things happen, but then what happens beyond that?
Yeah.
So that was kind of what inspired it.
Cool.
So that's why I'm kind of open to pretty much anything up to a point. I'm
Right.
quite curious to explore that
No, that's
territory
cool.
that I can't see yet.
That's good. There's something coming up that kind of fits that.
Spoilers.
That's fine. It's not spoilers because I'm not going to say what it is. It's the TARDIS.
The TARDIS, yes!
I'm joking.
Sonic Screwdriver.
How to get serious.
Sorry,
I
microphone.
would love to get Doctor Who into D&D somewhere.
It's
great.
I swear that's a thing, isn't it?
On Castle Greyhawk.
The original.
The sort of it isn't actually Castle Greyhawk because Gary Gygax wasn't working there at the time, but they made this comedy adventure. I met Doctor Who in D&D. It was the Baker Doctor Who, but still.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be.
It was a weird old game, that one. Anyway, back on track.
Sorry,
I think for me, kind of coasting on what Becky and Matt have said already, I feel like my character has an end. In a way.
When that sound runs out.
Maybe.
I know what you mean. You're working.
He has a goal,
working towards something,
but he has no idea how to get there and what's on the path. So I feel like I could close him as a character once I reach that point. But how long is it going to take? What's going to happen between?
Does he even get there?
Yeah, is it what he thinks it is?
Exactly.
When he does?
Is it exactly what he thinks it is?
Well, this is weirdly, this is the thing that we were talking about on the drive over here, is that like people wake up every day with a goal in mind. Not everyone does them. Not everyone is able to achieve that goal anyway, because life gets in the way. But well,
we'll cut in some sad music.
And that's the thing as well. Like sometimes no one necessarily wakes up and plans their day out as like, I'm going to go shopping, and then I'm going to call my mum later on, and then in the evening I'm going to go out with my friends to have a beer or whatever. Or in the case of us, I'm going to complete the quest of this mysterious hourglass. But then they die. Like no one plans.
Usually.
That's what I mean. Is like sometimes your goals don't get achieved because either life gets in the way, or as sad as it is, and like sometimes people die with their goals unfulfilled. And I think that's as much of a beautiful storytelling thing. It's a tragic way to tell a story, but it's like for me as well. Like Ezekiel could die before he gets to learn what's he made of.
What's in
that egg?
And that moth.
Yeah, I was going to say, the secret.
I want. Look, right? They are rare, beautiful creatures that
it's going to look like a baby pigeon, isn't it?
That only mate every 40 years.
I hate moths. They're shit moths.
And I have made them giant.
Oh, they're giant.
Yeah, they're giant moths.
That's a new thing.
Yeah,
that's good. Okay.
Oh, God.
But yeah, again, on that, if you do complete your quest, like you said, you could end your character there. And I thought about that with one of my characters is they could reach an end point in where they adventure with the party. Because a lot of the time
Which
you can
leaves
get
you scope to build a new character as well.
that maybe, yes, but you could also play it as what happens when you achieve that. Because much as in life,
to godhood.
you know, for example,
if you're a deity,
if you're a student and you're aiming to get that degree, once you get that degree, you don't then close the book and that's your story. You carry on living.
Fail at getting a job for 4 years.
Exactly. It keeps going and not always.
And that is a story full of pathos, tragedy, and only 4 years. Well done.
Well, you fail at getting a job in the field that you want to get a job in.
Yeah.
So, Sonny?
Can I go last? I'm still thinking.
You are last.
Oh, shall I ask a question while he's thinking?
Yeah,
So it's one that.
Is it a long question?
With you guys, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You have also missed me.
That was a real return.
Oh, we missed you as well.
No, genuinely thought. I clearly hate you. This is me subconsciously getting you back for the way that you are mean to Ezekiel.
But don't worry, we can ask the question, then we'll come back and do these.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So we've been talking a bit about character ends and character death. Because I'm new to this, how likely is it that characters just die?
Firstly, sick burn, by the way, when it was like, is it a long question? And you were just like, with you guys, yeah, because you won't shut up. I don't know, I suppose it's your campaign, so you can...
It's interesting, because finding 5th edition characters are quite hard to kill off.
No matter how hard you try.
I'm coming to the point where I'm just going to throw stuff at you until I saw someone
Unless it's an NPC chameleon lizard.
No, I don't want... it's not me versus you. But I wouldn't avoid it if it happened.
Yeah.
Like the rules, once you get to dying, you start making death saves, and then if you fail them, you die. So it's like once you're down, it's kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
But most of the time, someone has a healing word, because everyone has that spell prepared, right? Yeah.
There is a video where someone rails against healing word, and they say that it's ruined 5th edition.
Taking 20, I think.
Because you can res someone from across the board for like a cantrip.
It's a count spell.
No, it's a
First level spell.
So all you have to have all you have to do
Yeah.
is a spellcaster on the other side who has a few counter spells. Ready.
Yeah.
Like
It's like you're down. No.
Yeah. But anyway, carry on.
But I one thing I really hate is plot armor.
yeah.
Is the idea that because like you see it in movies all the time, and I think Family Guy makes a joke, doesn't it? It's like, oh no, it's like, look, we're fine. 4 out of the 5 main characters are on this ship. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's like the fact that because you're one of the main characters,
Well,
you get to survive.
Take last session, for instance. Like, if I hadn't have burned my 2 divinity dice on Nate, I've completely forgotten your character's name. Edward. Where did I get Nate from?
I know you hate me!
Because
Guys will hate, that's where you get
Here's
it
why.
from.
Because what's your last name?
North.
North.
North and hate.
Thorn.
Oh, okay, yeah. No,
Sorry,
so
it's a comics
Edward,
related
yeah.
Thorn,
So
like-
Edward,
Yeah.
like, there was a good chance you'd die.
Oh yeah.
There's a good chance I'd die if I hadn't rolled that crit. You know, I mean, Viz bit the dust.
Pour some for
We
once,
were all very
homies.
lucky with our rolling.
Yeah, no, but like,
Yeah, and it's great when
I
that
suppose-
happens. What isn't great is when you fail those rolls and bad DMs will find a way to save
Well,
you.
here's the
Not
thing.
always.
Here's the
Not
thing.
always.
About that, right? DMs have different beliefs on this, but for
Yeah.
me, the world we live in is very unfair, right? And it's full of hate and pain and needless suffering. And D&D is not that universe. It's a universe that exists on rules of narrative, and sometimes those rules of narrative are subverted. But I don't want to see anyone go out like a complete. Well, you want to bitch, for want of a better word.
Yeah, like
you don't wanna,
actually
like-
killed by a door.
Yeah, like it's possible, and
Or a
like you
table.
know, like you've spent a lot of time building these characters, so like falling from a boat.
But you also
into
want
the
to strike a
ground
balance.
is probably kind of ignoble, and yeah, I want to threaten you with it, and if you do die, then I will follow through with it. But actually, I prefer there just to be a cost.
Yeah.
I
I mean-
mean, death can be a cost. Like you can be brought back, but there are probably ways that it will affect you.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that I've never not had a character die.
You've never
in
not had a
fi-
character.
and I've not had a character die in 5th ed under my watch yet, so I haven't got to that. But in 3rd edition, other editions, we've had characters die where I've DM'd it, and the thing about dying is that like actually sometimes you go to the place you want to go.
Yeah.
That you don't want
Yeah.
to come back.
Vikings
There's
that go to Valhalla.
Yeah, like great thing in Raised Dead, where it's like a willing participant comes back to life. But like say for example that your character like had their parents murdered, and then they die, and their parents come to see them, and they're like, "Hey, we're in heaven. You want to come? It's pretty cool." And you're like, "But we want to save the world, but I'm not on the world." And you know, like, so death is just the beginning of another story.
Death would be a great adventure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
just the next bit.
Yeah.
And that therefore, like, it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for me,
Oh, that's Peter Pan.
no, it's Dumbledore.
It's also Peter Pan. So wait for another time.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I think it's a lot of things.
yeah. But for me as a DM, like I often feel like if it's narratively appropriate for you to die, or if you're stupid,
Yeah.
then you
I
die.
think you see what we rewarded by decapitation.
The thing, and Ben
Need a
touched,
t-shirt,
and
but-
Ben touched on it a little bit, but for me, like, it's not death so much as the threat of death. If there isn't a threat when you're playing D&D,
Absolutely, you got to be
then
prepared
if
to pull the trigger.
if you as a player are not afraid to die, right?
You can do anything.
You won't play like a real person. So when people get knocked down, when people go down to 0 hit points and then they get back up again, right, and they instantly charge back into combat, right, you wouldn't do that. Right, you would take a beat,
Yeah.
or you would do something because you are aware. Like the thing when it says you've gone unconscious, but like when you reach 0 hit points and you go down, you're not unconscious. You're making death saving throws. You've just been
dying.
speared through the stomach with like a with some sharp implement,
Like
and
a
you
spear.
are I didn't want to say speared through the stomach with a spear. That's just poor speech. But like if you've been run through with a spear or another implement, like you a real and then there was magic and you got brought back. A real person would have that moment of
What?
oh. So I'm like in our game, I'm implementing a thing where if you go down, when you get back up again, you have to make a fear roll. You have to make a wisdom saving throw against a fear rating that I've made up, and if you fail it, you're afraid of that creature that just killed you. And if
That
you're
makes
fighting,
sense.
and if you're fighting a single boss, or if you're the tank, and there's minions around, but there's a big bad who's now kicking the shit out of the rest of your party and you failed and you're afraid of the ogre, you can't, and that people may disagree with this, but I often find that, and I've done this myself, I'm guilty of this myself, people who roleplay want to be the heroes, and they don't want to, they don't necessarily play that human fear. So I am essentially forcing it upon the players.
See, I think it depends on the genre you're playing. Like if you're playing, from what I understand of your game, there's some horror elements, and it's kind of a bit like you guys are getting stomped and things like that. Whereas, like for our game, it's supposed to be high seas adventure, so I don't want that. And that's where house rules come in. Is like there's a lot of like enforcing genre tropes, and D&D can be so like that's why Session Zero is so important, and why maybe you didn't know we were pirates. Is because we didn't really have one. It's because like actually you can all end up in a different genre.
The reason I asked it was because I'd be quite sad if my character died. I put quite a lot into her.
So sometimes I would be, but sometimes I get quite nihilistic and quite morose with my characters, because like I'll get to a point sometimes where I'm like, I have a really cool idea that I want to play, and if this fucker dies, I don't really mind. But at the same time, I don't want to do what you want. I don't want to, because I know that I know for a fact, like I like new shiny things in every aspect of my life. So like, including jobs and stuff. Like
grass is always greener.
Yeah, and like it isn't necessarily always the case, but like it's how my brain works. But anyway, you two should go on because we're losing the light.
We are, actually,
and we haven't got a light bulb.
No, we may have
was in the way. Sonny, what was the question?
What do you want to see the campaign going in terms of your character?
So you want us to go last?
Okay.
Or have you got one?
I've got one, but do you want to go first?
Just go for it, man.
So in terms of my character, obviously I'm on a quest to avenge my tribe, but also in terms of I know there are other orc tribes out there, and there is a known shaman of one of the orc tribes that I would want to go visit and speak to. Maybe he can help me either with what I'm on my path to, or guide me on a new path if need be. If that path is no longer feasible, then...
So you have like very specific
it's
things
kind of,
you kind of want to see.
It's kind of specific in that sense, but in a sense as well, if I can't go back and obviously then defeat those orcs and become their leader, and obviously then, you know, to show my strength, then there must be another path. There must be some. There isn't one singular path that I can take. There must be
kind of like one of those. I want to be a doctor. You failed all your exams. Okay, what else is there in life?
Yeah. My question is to ask if revenge is not the right thing, what should I do? And I need to seek that advice and guidance from someone who knows who I am, or the way my tribe, the way our tribes work. It's not just clear black and white. I am going for revenge, and that's it.
So you want to sort of look at. Okay, let's go there. I just had an idea.
Again,
speaking about that,
there could be a path where I could then learn shamanism. I could then take
it. Might well lead to.
So Sonny wants to be a shaman.
No, I have an idea for a crossover.
Thrall. Yeah. So like Thrall again from Warcraft. I'm doing.
You're going through the characters.
I'm doing a Warcraft 3 for my character for this thing. But kind of it's.
Right.
Yeah,
but that's kind of where I want to go. I want to have in life.
You don't play the Rock from Warcraft, who is a goblin cleric who you can often smell like.
It's just like real life. There isn't just one path that you're on. There are multiple paths, but you choose. You don't always choose which path to go on. Yeah. Sometimes you're guided onto the right path or onto a different path.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So finishing off, and I'll try and make it brief. In kind of almost an opposite way to how you kind of want your backstories, like in your backstory, and now you want to move forward. Because of the things, I wrote my backstory almost like an origin story for a superhero. It was like, this is what got them to this point and made them who they are. I then want to see kind of the things in Edward's past, and sometimes these are specific people and specific events returning into the campaign, but not in the way I would write them myself, because that's boring.
The key, isn't it? Like actually, when you're using backstory, the first thing you want to do is look at what the player wants to do, and go, well, we're going to do half of that.
Yeah. Well, for example, without giving too much away, myself and Ben have worked on some things in my past and certain people in my past, and I've gone, this is who they were when I knew them, and then said to Ben, I don't, it's up to you who they are now if I do meet them, and that's part of the discovery, and that's what I want to see. I want to see kind of his past coming back to haunt him, and kind of hopefully he grows through that, and I grow as a player and a character as well.
Okay. A question, actually, genuine question for DMs. If let's say you do a big fight, it's a big 6-hour session that you've planned, and character dies within the first hour. How do you do that?
That's hard. That's why I was an NPC.
Is that, or like, like you have NPC as a party that they can take over, or like, depending, it can be really tricky. Like, if it's an experienced player, they can roll up a new character like that.
Yeah, like go away for an hour, make
or if you're, a lot of experienced players might, or to be fair, that's not even experience. A lot of players might already have 4 other characters.
Yeah, I'm not experienced at all, but because I like role playing, I have got at least 3 characters who have baseline stats, abilities, classes, and backstories saved on my iPad, ready to go.
Higher level death.
Is a revolving door. Or the session then becomes about.
Right, let's ditch this combat and save them.
So, the session can be about saving them. Just because someone's dead as well doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be role played anymore. Because what's their afterlife like?
What's
their afterlife like? Are you instantly in your eternal reward, or a little bit like? Order of the Stick. Well, no, a little bit like if you ever read the comic Order of the Stick, one of the characters in that dies, and he gets to his god's afterlife, and to get to the afterlife, he has to climb a mountain. So like Dante's Inferno. Yeah, but you can.
Athletics check.
Yeah, but you can still involve that player in their afterlife, and give them something to do until the point when the party is able to then
meet.
I think the other thing is, like, if you've planned a 6-hour combat and nothing else, you might have made a mistake already.
Well,
he was just talking about a 6-hour session.
Start of a session, but obviously the plot takes a left turn, and there's always a room for that, especially with certain players. The plot will take a left turn.
Taking lots of left turns.
Yeah, I know we need to finish up. I'm just going to finish on this point.
We are slowly going into shadow.
Yeah. For example, an example of a 6-hour game, we had a siege of a village.
We could always fade to black.
In that siege, there were breakdown points. Like where you guys could have a rest or whatever, and that was because one of you might die. And that gives us
let's
time
say it was the end of a session at a combat, and you carried it into this next session.
Like we say, you have to roll with that punch.
There's not much you can do except like hand them an NPC, I guess. But to some extent, that's the price of dying. It's got to feel like something, hasn't it?
Okay, so maybe now we've talked about characters ending. Maybe we end the video there. Didn't railroad that pun at all.
I hope you enjoyed both of those videos and that they taught you something new about D&D, or maybe to approach it from a different angle. And maybe we'll have another talk again at some point. For the next week or so, I'm still away, so the campaign won't be rolling forward until I get back, because it's hard to have a game without a DM. So stay tuned, there might be another surprise video on the channel, something that I've been working on with someone you've not seen before, who is a sort of integral member of the crew from my perspective. So it might be quite cool. Until we meet again, have fun and have a go, heroes.